June 26, 1919 marks the end of the largest and longest strike in the history of Canada, lasting over 41 days.
In Winnipeg, after a brutal confrontation between the police and the strikers, known as One Big Union, has resulted in the end of the strikes and the return of the strikers to their jobs.
The strike officially ended at 11 a.m. this morning, after the Central Strike Committee called off the strikes after a series of events that demoralized the strikers.
On June 17, 1919, the arrest of 10 strike leaders were ordered, and then perhaps the final breaking point was a day of violent outbreaks known as Bloody Saturday. On this tragic day, June 21, 1919, 2 strikers were killed, and while another 27 were left the conflict with major injuries. Now, 5 days later, the Central Strike Committee of 1000 has finally surrendered.
Yes, these tragic events ended the hopes of the strikers. Here is what one of the strikers had to say about these events. This footage was recorded a few days before the end of the strike. I am here with Bob Cameron, one of the thousands of strikers striking in the city of Winnipeg.
Hi, Jim.
Hi, how are you? First of all, your group, the Central Strike Committee, has been striking for quite a while. Can you please tell me what you're protesting for?
We are protesting for higher wages, better working conditions, the right to form unions, and for the principle of collective bargaining. The disagreement in the building and metal industry were just the last coup for us.
Also, the Citizens Committee of 1000 has called you guys Bolsheviks. What do you think of this claim?
Frankly, we don't care. They have always resorted to dirty tricks. This does not surprise me at all.
Thank you for your time. Obviously, the strikers felt very hostile towards the Citizens Committee of 1000. Speaking of the Citizens Committee, did it surprise you at all when they accused the strikers of being Bolsheviks?
It was an absurd claim, I have to agree, but it certainly captured the attention of the government, which is the advantage the Citizen Committee of 1000 had to do to gain the upper hand.
Here is the footage of an interview taken 2 days earlier. Here we have John Henry, a significant player in the Citizens Committee. Hi John, how are you today?
Good. And yourself?
I am good as well. I understand that you are one of the very first business owners to accuse the strikers of leading a revolutionary conspiracy towards the government. Am I correct?
This is correct. I'm confident that these Bolsheviks are coming together with the plan of overthrowing the government. The strike is just a cover-up.
Oh, I see. Okay. Wow. This claim might seem absurd to some people, but how do you come up with this idea?
It's too obvious. The way they behave themselves while in the streets, they are trying to overthrow the government.
Oh, that's interesting. Also, Arthur Mahan and the rest of the government have started taking action towards the strikers. They have authorized the police to use whatever force necessary to stop the strikes. What is your opinion on this?
That's great. They're finally taking care of the Bolsheviks.
I see. Thank you for your time, John. Thank you, Jim. Bolsheviks, I think that claim he made is a bit overboard.
Maybe, but in the end, they accomplished their goal from the very start, to pressure the government into intervening.
Speaking of the government, were you at all surprised when Arthur Mahan decided to replace the old police force and directly attack the strikers?
Absolutely. After meeting with the Citizens Committee of 1000, the government seemed to have their minds set on siding with the business owners, instead of even considering what the strikers had to say.
In case you missed it, here is the official statement Arthur Mahan made on the June the 18th regarding the issue.
Today, I will address the issue of strikers' riot in Winnipeg. After meeting with several leaders of the Citizen Committee of 1000, I have come up with a solution to end this conflict. I have decided to replace Winnipeg's old, ineffective police force with the corporation of Mr. Charles Fredericton Gray, the current mayor of the city of Winnipeg. In addition to that, the rest of the government, including myself, will be implementing a new immigration act that will be able to deport any person suspect of conspiracy to overthrow the government. That is all for today. I will not be taking any questions. Thank you.
Now that statement caused quite a bit of displeasure from the strikers, who felt that Mahan had totally ignored their protests.
Well, in a way, they have a point. Nowhere in that statement was there any mention of the strikers' requests.
The statement and the fact that the government had finally allied with the Citizens Committee must have completely depleted the strikers' faith.
The new police force showed much aggression against the strikers, led by Lieutenant Hondo, who is now live with Jim at the city center of Winnipeg. where the last of the strikers were being arrested and cleared out.
Hi Tom, how are you? After such a long period of time where the strikers would not relent, were you at all surprised at how quickly your police force was able to stop the strikes?
We were specifically trained and we just trying to restore peace at downtown Winnipeg.
I see. However, there was some controversy about June 21st or Bloody Saturday when your police force seemed to rush recklessly into the crowd and injured many people and even killing 2 in the process. What do you have to say about your actions on this day?
We were trying to reason with them peacefully. Mayor Gray read out the riot act, but instead of listening to them, the strikers began to get violent. We had no choice but to resent to violence.
Okay, I see. Also, your police force replaced the old police force. Was this because they were ineffective or simply not aggressive enough, or what was the reason?
It was clear that the old police force was in favor of the strike. There was no other choice but then to replace them.
I see. Thank you for your time. Very interesting point of view explained. Anyways, to continue, as the police are clearing the downtown streets, the arrest and deportation numbers continue to rise.
As a consequence for being key players in the strike, 8 strike leaders were arrested and many more strikers were deported. As a result of the strike, there were many injuries.
With the strike now over, expect the citizens to return to their regular jobs by next week, if they are accepted back, of course. However, most business owners will no longer allow any unions. As we say goodbye, here's the point of view of Richard Wilcox, a man who remained neutral throughout the whole strike.
First of all, this strike was ridiculous in the first place. Over 30,000 strikers, there was no one working, and the whole town was in a mess. If this ain't bad enough, then how come those damn business owners are claiming this whole thing is a communist plot or whatever? The point is, there were many bad decisions made. The whole strike was not worth the effect or the time. The strikers tried to make a point that ended up suffering with the loss of their little unions. The most ridiculous part of this damn strike are those damn police just coming out of nowhere and rushing to the crowd, pointless violence, just ridiculous.
Thank you, Richard. With that, we are going to say goodbye. Have a good night, viewers. See you next time. Hi Tom, how are you?
Good, yourself?
I'm good as well.
Trained and brought you to do a job, but
Winner Winnipeg.
Hi, Jim.
Hi, how are you? Today, I forgot. Thank you, Jim. Bolsheviks, I think that claim he made is a bit overboard.
Maybe, but
Thank you, Jim. Bolsheviks, I think that claim he made is a bit overboard.
maybe. But in the end, they accomplished.
Now that statement caused quite a bit of displeasure from the
Police force showed much more aggression against the strikers, led by Lieutenant Don Hondo, who is now
He depleted the strikers' faith.
The new police force showed much more aggression.
Now that state
Richard, with that, we're going to say goodbye. Have a Richard. With that, we're going to say goodbye. Have a good night, viewers. See you next time.